Was Tartaria truly a lost empire, or is it just a myth that has been exaggerated over time? In this video, we will explore the historical facts, examine the alleged evidence, and provide insights from experts in the field. To begin, let's take a deeper look at the historical roots of the term Tartaria. This term first appeared during the Middle Ages, used by European geographers and historians to describe a vast and largely unknown region stretching across parts of Central Asia and Siberia. During the 16th and 17th centuries, Europeans began to create more detailed maps of the world they were exploring. However, due to a lack of accurate information about the eastern regions, vast areas were labeled under the name Tartaria. These maps were often based on vague and unverified reports from traders or explorers, leading to the depiction of Tartaria as a unified and vast empire. When analyzing these old maps, such as the famous 1550 map by Sebastian Münster or the 1595 map by Gerardus Mercator, we see Tartaria depicted as a region extending from Eastern Europe to the Pacific Ocean. What we need to understand here is that maps from that era were more about perception than geographical accuracy. Medieval cartography often used broad, imprecise names, which contributed to the myth surrounding Tartaria. It's also important to understand that Tartaria was often associated with the Mongol Empire. During the 13th century, the Mongols, led by Genghis Khan, swept across vast swathes of Asia and Europe. During this period, large parts of what is now Russia and Central Asia were under the control of various Mongol khanates. However, it must be emphasized that these khanates were not united under a single political entity called Tartaria. Rather, they were independent and often in competition with each other. Nonetheless, Europeans continued to use the term Tartaria to refer to these unfamiliar lands. Although the term Tartaria largely disappeared from maps and records as time progressed, it has resurfaced in the 21st century as the centerpiece of conspiracy theories. Proponents of these theories claim that Tartaria was an extremely advanced civilization, and some even suggest it was a global empire that was deliberately erased from historical records by global powers. But how did this theory emerge, and what evidence do they rely on? The beginning of this theory lies in old maps that show Tartaria as a vast empire. Proponents of the theory use these maps as evidence of a powerful and dominant political entity that spanned large parts of Asia and Europe. Additionally, they point to massive buildings and architectural landmarks in Russia, Europe, and even North America as evidence of the remnants of this civilization. For example, the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg, St. Isaac's Cathedral, and even some government buildings in the United States are considered to be relics of Tartaria. One of the most prominent ideas associated with the Tartaria theory is the so-called mud flood. According to proponents, a catastrophic global event occurred in the 19th century, burying many cities and cultural landmarks under mud. They point to old photographs showing buildings partially submerged in the ground as evidence of this flood. In this context, they claim that this disaster was part of a grand conspiracy to hide the traces of Tartaria and erase it from history. Another aspect promoted by proponents of the Tartaria theory is the idea that this civilization possessed highly advanced technology, possibly surpassing what we know today. They point to certain drawings and ancient inscriptions that they believe depict complex machines or advanced energy devices. Some go as far as to claim that this technology was based on free energy or other sources of power unknown to modern humanity. However, when these claims are examined closely, the alleged evidence often turns out to be misinterpretations of art or techniques that were common in those periods. How did these theories originate in the first place? And why have they gained so much popularity in recent years? There are several reasons that can explain this. First, the internet has facilitated the spread of misinformation and unreliable theories. Forums, blogs, and conspiracy websites have become fertile ground for the exchange of these ideas. Additionally, some people have a tendency to believe in alternative explanations for history, especially when they involve the idea of an advanced civilization being suppressed or erased. There is also a psychological aspect to these theories. The idea of lost civilizations has always captivated humans, from the mythical city of Atlantis to El Dorado. Tartaria is no exception. The notion of an advanced civilization hidden by global powers taps into humanity's desire to uncover the unknown and challenge conventional understanding of history. However, these theories lack credible evidence and are often based on misinterpretations or distortions of the facts. Returning to the evidence cited by proponents of the Tartaria theory, let's analyze it from a scientific and historical perspective. First, the old maps that show Tartaria do not represent a real empire, but were simply general classifications of regions unknown to Europeans. These maps reflect the perceptions of Europeans at that time, who knew little about those lands and lacked geographical accuracy. The map by Sebastian Münster, for example, was not an accurate depiction, but was based on speculation and assumptions. However, these maps have been used as evidence of a vast empire that supposedly controlled large parts of the world. When we examine archaeological and architectural evidence, we find that all the buildings and landmarks claimed to be remnants of Tartaria can be traced to known historical periods and civilizations. For instance, the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg and St. Isaac's Cathedral are buildings that were constructed in the 18th and 19th centuries by known architects such as Bartolomeo Rastrelli and Auguste de Montferrand, commissioned by the Russian Tsar or Emperor. There is no evidence to suggest that these buildings belong to an unknown advanced civilization. As for the mud flood, there is no historical or geological evidence to support the occurrence of a global flood that buried entire cities in mud. The photographs cited by proponents may show local landslides or small-scale flooding events, but they cannot be considered evidence of a worldwide catastrophe. While the idea of lost civilizations may intrigue us and push us to explore, we must always differentiate between fact and fiction. Tartaria, as it appears in old maps, was simply a reflection of the lack of geographical knowledge at the time, not evidence of an advanced empire. Myths and legends have their place in our culture, but they should not replace well-established historical facts. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more in-depth historical content.